Chosen one, wait, do not leave yet. Whatever was about to pull you away can hold for a moment, because what I have to tell you tonight is the answer to a question you have carried in silence for longer than you would ever admit out loud. The question of whether you have been forgotten. Your name is written in a place so permanent, so honored, that the moment the enemy of your soul saw where it was written, he stopped everything and knelt. I do not speak to crowds. I never have. I do not see them seated unseen by the one they prayed to, someone who began to quietly wonder if they had been overlooked, skipped, forgotten. If maybe their name had simply slipped through the cracks of a heaven too busy with more important people. That person is you. And tonight, I am going to show you exactly where your name is written and what happened when the darkness saw it. So stay with me. Just a few minutes. Do not look away. Let me ask you something first. Have there been seasons where you prayed and felt like the words just hit the ceiling and fell back down? Where you needed heaven to show up, and it stayed silent, and you started to wonder if you had been forgotten? Maybe you watched others get their answers, their breakthroughs, their signs, while you waited in a quiet that made you ask whether God even remembered you were there. You felt that the fear of being forgotten by the very one you trusted. Tonight that fear ends. As your first yes to the truth you are about to hear, write 777 in the comments if you have ever quietly feared that you had been forgotten by heaven, skipped over while everyone else got remembered, and stay until the end. Because the last thing I tell you turns every silent season into proof of how unforgettable you actually are. Let me take you somewhere first. There are many ways something can be recorded. Some things are written in places that fade. A note set down and lost. A name spoken once and forgotten. A record kept loosely and easily misplaced. Most of what passes through existence is recorded this way, lightly, temporarily, in places that do not last. But there are a few things written in a place that cannot fade, cannot be lost, cannot be misplaced, or overwritten or forgotten. The most permanent place there is, and in the old understanding the most permanent place of all, the place of highest honor and closest keeping, is the right hand of the Most High. To be held in the right hand is to be in the place of greatest favor, greatest protection, greatest nearness. It is not where you put something you might forget. It is where you keep what you treasure most, where you can never lose sight of it, where it stays before you always. Your name is written there, not in a fading place, not in a record that could be misplaced, in the most permanent, most honored, most treasured place that exists, on the right hand of the one you feared had forgotten you. Let me explain. Let me explain to mean something completely different. The silence you experienced was never absence. This is the thing the enemy worked so hard to make you misread. When you prayed and heard nothing, you concluded you had been forgotten, because that is how it feels to us down here when an answer does not come on our timeline. But silence is not the same as being forgotten. A name carved into the most permanent place there is does not get less remembered during the quiet seasons. It stays exactly where it is, held just as closely, treasured just as much, whether you feel it or not. You measured how remembered you were by how loud the answers came, and by that measure the quiet seasons felt like abandonment. But that was never the right measure. Your name was not written in the answer's sint. Your name was written on the hand itself, held there through every silent stretch, kept there through every unanswered prayer, treasured there in the exact seasons you felt most forgotten. The silence was never the absence of your name from God's keeping. It was just the absence of the noise you were using to reassure yourself. The name stayed. It always stayed. And here is what almost no soul ever learns. The seasons you felt most forgotten were often the seasons your name was being held most closely, because nearness does not always come with noise. Sometimes the closest keeping is the quietest. Sometimes you are being held so close that there is no distance for an echo to travel back across. And you mistake the closeness for absence, because you have only ever recognized presence by its sound. I know how much those silent seasons cost you, because they are the loneliest kind of pain there is. It is one thing to feel abandoned by people. You can at least understand that, explain it, even expect it. But to feel abandoned by the one you believed would never leave, to pour out your heart in prayer and feel like it landed nowhere, to keep showing up to a silence while it seemed like everyone around you got their answers. That is a loneliness that goes all the way to the bottom. Because who do you even tell? How do you say out loud that you are afraid God forgot you? So you held it alone through the unanswered seasons, through the prayers that seemed to go nowhere, through watching others get what you were still waiting for. And slowly, the silence started to feel like a verdict, like maybe the reason you were not getting an answer was that you were not important enough to get one. That is the conclusion the quiet pushes you toward. And it is the exact conclusion that was never true, because the silence was never measuring how remembered you were. It was only measuring how loud the season was. And quiet seasons are not forgotten seasons. They never were. Take a breath here. This is the center of everything. Type "I am not forgotten" in the comments right now, not as a reply, as the first time you have said it, and let yourself mean it. Now I have to tell you what happened when the darkness saw where your name was written, because this is the part that should settle the question forever. The enemy of your soul moves against the chosen by attacking their sense of belonging. His oldest tactic is to convince a soul it has been forgotten, abandoned, left out, because a soul that believes it is forgotten stops expecting protection, stops walking in its identity, stops drawing on what is actually its own. So he came against you the way he comes against all the chosen ones, by whispering through every silent season that you had been overlooked, that you were not important enough to remember, that your name had slipped through the cracks. But to attack a soul effectively, he has to study it. He has to look closely at what he is moving against. And at some point, in the course of studying you, he looked too closely, and he saw it. He saw where your name was actually written, not in a fading place he could exploit, not in some loosely kept record he could cast doubt on. He saw your name held in the most permanent, most honored place in all of existence, on the right hand of the Most High, and he knelt, not out of respect for you. He has no respect for anyone. He knelt because of what the location of your name told him. A name written in that place is a name under the personal keeping of the highest authority there is. And even the enemy, in all his pride, knows what it means to find a name written there. It belongs to the one whose hand it is written on. And before that authority, even the proudest force in existence bends, because it has no choice. The kneeling was not reverence for you. It was recognition of whose you are. He saw the hand your name was written on, and he understood in an instant that he had been wasting his time trying to convince you that you were forgotten, because the very hand he feared most was the hand keeping you. Think about what that kneeling cost his pride. This is a being whose entire existence is built on the refusal to bow. The original rebellion, the thing that made him what he is, was the decision not to kneel. Bowing is the one act most opposed to his whole nature. And yet, when he saw where your name was written, the recognition was so total, so undeniable, that even he, the one who would not bow to anything, bent, not because he chose to, because the authority over that name left him no other option. That is how secure your name is in that place. Secure enough to force a knee out of the one being in all of existence most committed to never bending one. And every time from that moment on that he was tempted to come at you again with the old lie that you had been forgotten, he would have remembered the kneeling. He would have remembered what he saw. You do not easily go back to telling someone they are forgotten after you have personally knelt at the sight of how closely they are kept. Sit in that for a moment. The one being in existence built entirely around the refusal to bow bent, not because he chose to, because the authority over your name left him no other option. That is how permanently you are kept, and there is someone in your life who has not heard this yet. Still in the season you were sitting in before this message found you. Still reading every silence as a verdict. Still carrying the question of whether they slipped through. If something in tonight landed in a place that has been waiting a long time, through the link in the description or the pinned comment, plant a seed here, not as a donation, as a declaration. The same way a name carved into a hand cannot be undone by silence. A seed released from a place of knowing carries the weight of what you now know. This message exists to reach the ones still inside the lie. One moment away from the same shift you just had. As you release, bring one name, not a list. The one face that came to you while you were listening. Place them inside what you let go, and trust that the same hand that kept yours through every silent season is already moving toward theirs. And if that face came to mind, if you know exactly who needs to hear this before you even finish thinking about it, share this with them right now. Not as a video. As the thing that found you tonight, finding them. Your blessing does not stop at the edge of your own life. Let it move. What comes next is the part that shows you why your name was placed on the right hand. Now I want you to look back through this and watch your life turn inside out. The quiet as the sound of being forgotten. That has been the story. Everyone else got remembered, and somehow you got skipped. Turn it over. Look again. What if the silence was never absence, but a nearness so close it made no echo? What if the seasons you felt most forgotten were the seasons your name was being held most tightly? You were not skipped. You were not overlooked. Your name was never written in a place that cracks. It was written on the hand itself, in the place of highest honor, kept there through every single moment you feared you had been forgotten. The evidence you read as abandonment was you misreading closeness as distance, because you had only ever learned to feel remembered when the answers were loud. You were never forgotten. You were being held so closely that you could not hear the space between you and the one holding you. And the proof is not a feeling. The proof is that even the darkness, when it finally saw where your name was written, stopped attacking and knelt. And here is the part the enemy works hardest to hide. There is an old line written down long ago, where the Maker says to a soul that felt abandoned, "Can a mother forget the baby at her breast? Even these may forget, but I will not forget you. See, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands." Engraved, not written in something that can be erased. Carved into the palms, permanently, where the hands are always in view. The very image your title carries was spoken thousands of years ago to people who felt exactly what you felt. Forgotten, abandoned, skipped over. And the answer given to them is the answer for you. You are engraved on the hands that hold everything. You cannot be forgotten by hands that carry your name carved into them. Type 444 in the comments. The number of the ones assigned to guard what is kept. Let it be the mark of the moment you receive this. You can probably feel the truth of this if you look honestly at your life. The way you have survived things that should have ended you. The strange protection over your life that you cannot fully explain. The close calls that turned out okay. The disasters that somehow missed you. The times you should have gone under and did not. You called it luck, or coincidence, or resilience. But look at the pattern of it. Something has been keeping you. Not loudly, not in a way you could always feel, but consistently across your whole life, in a way that luck does not explain. That is what it looks like to have your name held on the hand that protects what it keeps, and maybe you felt it in the quietest moments. A sense underneath the silence that you were not actually alone in it, that the quiet was not empty. That is not your imagination. That is the felt edge of being held closely enough that there is no distance left to echo across. Let me be honest with you now, in my own voice, because you have earned it. And I will tell you the tactic we relied on most, because it worked more often than any other. Convince a soul it has been forgotten. It is cheaper than any attack. You do not have to break a soul that already believes no one is coming for it. It breaks itself slowly in the silence. And I watched it work on countless souls. But I also watched it fail, again and again on certain ones. Souls whose names, when we got close enough to read them, were written in a place we could not touch. And the moment you read a name written on that hand, the whole strategy collapses, because you realize the soul was never forgotten, and you were only ever lying. The longer I read names written in that place, the harder it became to keep whispering the lie of abandonment. I looked too long, so I left. I crossed over. And I am telling you, the lie that you have been forgotten is the enemy's favorite weapon, precisely because your name proves it false. I crossed over because the lie became impossible to keep saying. If tonight it became impossible for you to keep believing it, that is not coincidence. That is the same recognition that stopped me. The same thing I looked at too long. This message exists because the moment one soul speaks the truth of permanence from inside the silence, the lie loses its grip on the next one. If you are done with the season of feeling forgotten, through the link in the description or the pinned comment, there is a way to make that ending reach further than your own life. What you plant here does not go toward a voice. It goes toward the soul still sitting where you were sitting when you first pressed play. Still inside the room where the strategy lives, one message away from the same crossing. You will not see their face when it reaches them. You do not need to. As you release, bring with you the door that has stayed closed the longest, the one the silence made feel permanent. Stop holding your hands closed around it. Let it go into what you plant. That door is not as far from opening as the silence has made it feel, and a seed released from the other side of a lie is one of the most irreversible things that moves. If you want to stay inside this current, not follow a channel, but remain in the line of what keeps reaching you, hit subscribe. That is not a button. That is your declaration that you are not going back to the season you came from. When a soul learns that it was never forgotten, that its name is written in the most permanent place there is, the enemy cannot sell the old lie of abandonment anymore. So he changes it. He whispers that you made it up to comfort yourself, that the silence really did mean absence, and you are just telling yourself a sweet story because the truth of being forgotten was too painful to hold. He will try to turn your relief back into doubt. When that whisper comes, and it will, do not argue with it. Just remember this: the same darkness that spent your life trying to convince you that you were forgotten does not get to tell you that you were. It would not have worked so hard to make you feel abandoned if your name were not written somewhere that made abandonment impossible. The effort spent trying to convince you that you were forgotten already proves how unforgettable you actually are. Let me leave you with this. You spent so long fearing you had been forgotten, that your name slipped through the cracks, that heaven was too busy with more important people to remember you. The truth is the exact reverse. Your name is written in the most permanent, most honored place that exists, held there through every silent season, treasured through every unanswered prayer. The quiet was never absence. It was a nearness so close, it made no echo. And the proof is that even the darkness, when it saw where your name was written, stopped attacking and knelt. You were never the forgotten one. You were the one whose name was carved so deep, in a place so high, that the proudest force in existence had to bow when it finally saw it. And the one who engraved your name on his hands, who held you closest in the seasons you felt most alone, has never once, for a single moment, forgotten you exist. Type "my name is written there" in the comments, not as a reply, as the seal on what just shifted in you. Now click the video appearing on your screen. There is a message waiting there, prepared as the next step for the ones who reach the end of this. And it leads exactly where your story goes from here. Together, we are stronger.